Howdy folks, this is Justro at Metcalf Mills bringing you Storytime Tuesday. I've got another good one for you today. Yeah, another good one. I hope you enjoy it. Folks, on today's Storytime Tuesday, we're going to talk about one of my most favorite things, grain. You've heard me talk a lot about grain here lately, but I want to talk about something specific this week, and that is a grain called Black Emmer. And the scientific name for that is Triticum dicoccum. And this grain, I had the opportunity a few years back to grow out a seed trial of it with a friend of mine who happened to have a little bit of the seed, not much at all, just a little. And we planted it and growed out what we had, and it done real good, and I got to see through the whole life cycle of this beautiful Black Emmer. And when I say beautiful, it's unbelievable the beauty that this grain has. When it's growing, it looks like, if you've seen a black snake, you know how shiny and glossy they are sometimes. Well, that's kind of how this grain looks. I hate to compare it to a snake, but that's how it looks. It's real shiny and glossy, and it's really beautiful. I mean, it just, in the sun, it just glistens and shines when it gets, when it gets close to being ripe. And then, like when the morning dew's on it, it just glistens and shimmers. It's unbelievable how beautiful it is. But let alone how beautiful it is, it's really amazing as far as how long this grain has been around and how long it's been in cultivation. I'm going to show you right here. This is what I'm talking about. This is Black Emmer. And it's dried out now, so it's not glossy and pretty like I was telling you about. But it's a 2-row wheat, and it's one of the oldest wheats in cultivation. So this stuff's been around for thousands of years. It was possibly stored during a famine during the reign of Metcalf III, who was a pharaoh in Egypt around 1800. They think this may be what was stored during that famine. So it's just absolutely unbelievably amazing, this grain is. And it dates back to biblical Israel and even the Neolithic period in Europe. So it is very, very old. I was talking with some friends of mine a while back, and he shared with me that they think most likely this could be the grain that was served at the Last Supper. Whatever the bread they had was, probably unleavened bread, I guess. They think most likely this is the grain that bread was made out of for the Last Supper. So it's amazing. I am so thankful to have a little bit of this. This fall, I'm going to plant as much of it as I can. I've got about 200 pounds of seed right now, and I'm going to try my best to work this to a stage that, it can be, I'll have enough for a crop as well as to share with other people to get this grain started. It's strange that it's not grown more than it is, because it's really good when it comes to the traits and the details about this stuff. It's got a really strong stalk, a stem, and it really resists lodging, which is falling over due to weather, or sometimes if some wheats and grains, if the seed head gets too big, it'll cause them to lodge and fall over, and it's a nightmare to try to harvest when that happens. But this stuff is really resistant to lodging. So it's an all-around awesome grain in my opinion. I don't know why it's not grown more than it is. I think some people are working on it around the country and maybe around the world, but my understanding is this grain was kind of lost till around 1906, and somebody found it over there somewhere in the Middle East growing in the wild, and I think they harvested and kind of saved the seed. That's my understanding now. I can't swear that that's the truth, but that's my understanding, and it makes sense. But I hope we can get this awesome, wonderful grain brought back and to a stable state where we can have some of this stuff to eat. And it's a bearded wheat. You can see these long beards on there. See that? And I think that's definitely to protect the grain, but I think like if maybe some animal was going to come along and try to eat this grain, that stuff does not feel good in your face, and that would deter an animal from trying to eat the grain. I don't know about birds, if maybe that would deter birds from trying to get it, but it's got a really thick kind of a husk on the grain itself that you have to remove before you can eat the grain. You have to remove that off, kind of de-hull it. It's got a real thick hull there. But it's just absolutely amazing. This is nothing compared to how beautiful it is when it's growing and it's real glossy black and pretty. So it's also really resistant to drought as well as wet, like not in standing water wet, but just wet weather in general. It's really tolerant to that. It's really disease resistant too. It'll resist the fusarium disease for wheat. It's really resistant to that. It's just unbelievable grain to me, amazing. And I do not know why it's not grown more than what it is, except for maybe yield. I don't know enough to know what the yield on this is. I know some folks that are growing like turkey red hard winter wheat right now, and their yield's about 20 bushel to the acre, so it's not a real high yielding grain versus 40 bushel of commercial wheat. So it can be consumed. You can make like a hot cereal with it, or you can mill the grain up for bread. I think I read somewhere that maybe they make some noodles out of it. So it's all around an awesome grain. It's real high in fiber as well as protein. Like the protein, it's got like 24 grams of protein per cup of this stuff. So it's just an awesome grain. You can see right here, this is what we grew out from the grain trials. And you can see we just harvested the grain heads right off the plant because we didn't have a huge amount. And that's how we done it. But this stuff, I think it's reached heights, the plant height has reached up to like 80 plus inches tall. So, you know, that's about around 7 foot. So it can be really tall stuff. And like I said, it's real beautiful. It's really a masterpiece. It's really amazing. And if you ever see any growing, you'll understand what I'm saying. Here is what the grain looks like. Let's see this good. It's really a beautiful grain. As far as the taste, it's got kind of a nutty, delicious taste. It's really good. I cannot wait to mill some of this stuff. But there it is, folks, Black Emmer. Thousands of years old, still around, and hopefully gonna be around. I'm gonna do everything I can to grow every bit of it that I can. Like I said, it's overall good because it's drought tolerant, wet tolerant. It's really good because, like I said, it's drought tolerant, wet tolerant, disease resistant. I mean, what more do you want? It's probably just, like I said, because of the yield that it's not growing more. But I hope you've enjoyed this little talk about Black Emmer. There's probably people that know a lot more about it than I do, but for what I know about it, I'm very excited about it. And I'm going to try my best to grow as much as I can and take care of it. And I may have not mentioned it's a winter wheat, so it'd be planted here in my area in September and harvested probably around 4th of July sometime. But I'm excited about that, and I will share that with you. You'll get to see how this stuff goes, how it grows, and the whole process, hopefully. With 200 pounds of seed, I would hope to have enough for a pretty good harvest the first year, unlike my red Clausen, where I'm going to have to wait 2 or 3 years to get a good harvest. And that stuff's coming along too. I went down the other day to do a little video about the red Clausen and update you on that, and it was so muddy in the field. We've had so much rain here, it's just been crazy, and the field's just now starting to dry out a little bit so I can get back in there without making a big mess. But I'll get you a video of the red Clausen wheat, let you see where it's at, and I'm looking forward to that. I've been waiting my whole life to harvest that or grow that stuff, much less harvest some. And I've heard my dad talk about it, you know, when he was a little boy growing up, and that's what got me excited about that red Clausen wheat. And I can wait and tell you all that on that video, but it's another thing that my dad kind of handed down to me, and I'm real excited about it and excited about sharing it with you. This is Justro at Metcalf Mills. I hope y'all have had a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time.